10 signs that you self-abandon, and I'm going to share with you just a few little tips as well as how to overcome this. It's going to get juicy, it's going to be good, this video, so let's dive straight in. Number 1, you're abandoning your own needs and desires. We all have our own needs. We all have our basic human needs of water, shelter, warmth, sleep. We have basic human needs, and sometimes our own basic needs don't get met because we are trying to meet the needs of everybody else. This is particularly true in motherhood. When we are meeting the needs of everybody else, we are abandoning our own needs. So maybe our need to sleep, for example. I know it's hard to come by in motherhood, but when we are always meeting everybody else's needs, we're abandoning our own wants and our own needs. So maybe you had the desire to go out and see friends, but you give in and allow everybody to dictate what you can and what you can't do. So you neglect and abandon your own desires and your needs to want to do things. Number 2 on the list, not showing up for yourself. This is where self-abandonment and not showing up for yourself go hand in hand, because when we are self-abandoning, that means we are not showing up for ourselves. So what is showing up for ourselves? It's kind of like you being on your team, showing up for yourself by taking care of yourself, meeting your own needs, and filling your cup up, showing up for yourself in ways that nobody else can show up for, and making sure that we are checking in with ourselves to know that when we are out of balance and that we need to maybe take a break, maybe go and rest some. And so this is important to do this when we are self-abandoning and not showing up for yourself, because I have overgiven previously. I've abandoned myself on many occasions to please the other, whether that's to please family members, friends, whether that's to be in of service so much to my business, to other people. Then I forget to check in with myself and come back to myself and bring a restored balance and start showing up for myself instead of showing up for everybody else the way they want me to show up for them. So at the beginning of this year, I went through a stage of I was really working hard. I was launching a podcast. That podcast is no longer available. It was just kind of in the moment idea that I wanted to do. So I was in the process of launching this podcast. I was very heavily focused on learning everything about podcasts and recording them, then editing them. And it was taking a lot of work to get this podcast launched and create the podcasts every week. And as a part-time stay-at-home mum and part-time a business owner as well, it was hard for me to make any time to get this podcast on the show, on the road. And I was working hard. I was creating YouTube videos still. I was emailing my email list. I was on Instagram. I was doing all of these things. And what I realized, I became resentful towards my partner and other people that just had the freedom to do things. I was feeling I began to feel burnt out, overwhelmed. And when I was feeling like that, I came to the realization that what I was doing was actually abandoning myself. I wasn't showing up for myself because I was trying to please the other all of the time. So just a quick tip here, what you must do when it comes to overcoming the self-abandonment is do a check-in with yourself. Feel into how you are feeling right now. And are you feeling resentful? Are you feeling burnt out? Are you feeling overwhelmed, tense, stressed when you have been giving so much to everybody else? Because this is what I realized at that period of my life, was that I was not checking in with myself. I wasn't pausing because I was on the go all the time, and giving myself that grace, that moment in time to pause, reflect, take a breath, be mindful, and say, how am I really feeling right now? What does my body need right now? So that's a question you can ask yourself every day, when you are feeling some tense, when you are feeling kind of overwhelmed, stressed. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? What is my body trying to tell me? What do I need? And then when you're able to get an idea of what that is, we can begin to slow it down and listen to our bodies. So when we are beginning to show up for ourselves and stop abandoning ourselves again. Number 3 on 10 signs that you are self-abandoning is pleasing others. This is the big one, I think, when it comes to self-abandonment, because what we are actually doing with the whole process of self-abandonment is pleasing the other. You abandon the self to please the other. And this is how the people pleaser can get stuck in this resentment trap of people pleasing. And so what happens is that we abandon our own needs, our wants, our desires, all of these things that we want to speak up about. We abandon that, and so we become resentful, and then we just end up having an emotional outburst and rage towards the person that we are constantly pleasing all of the time. And why is it that people try to please other people? It's for approval, acceptance, validation. It's trying to receive that external validation outside of us, so then we feel like we are enough, we're good enough, we're safe in our bodies. So then we can go about our regular everyday life feeling comfortable and safe. It's a way we can get our needs met, so then we can survive and create safety. Because if we don't feel accepted, well, in tribal times, that could mean death. And our ancestors have kind of passed this gene down. It's in our genes, it's in our part of our reptilian brain that we use community to survive. So we can get trapped in the people pleaser for survival, but it doesn't have to be like that, because often the people pleaser forms in childhood when you've been told to act a certain way to receive love and acceptance. Number 4 on my list of signs you are self-abandoning is that you have some inner child wounds. So in childhood, what happens is from the ages of birth up until around 7 or 8, it's when we form our belief systems about our world, because we are in an altered state of brainwaves in that years, and we absorb everything like a sponge. So we form beliefs about ourselves and how our external world meets our needs, how the external world makes me feel about myself, how you are perceiving the world. And in childhood, what usually happens is maybe a parent didn't give you the love, they didn't give you the validation that you needed in childhood. And so what you had to do was change your personality, you changed who you were, and you became that people pleaser in order to get your needs met in childhood for you, so you felt loved, you felt enough, so you felt like you could survive. So if you experience something maybe traumatic, just your parents belittling you all the time, your parents weren't giving you any love or validation unless you behaved in a certain way, like the good girl or the good boy. So then you constantly had to show up in a certain way to receive that love. So this means you highly likely have some inner child wounds. And if you want to discover if you do have an inner child wound, I have a free inner child wound quiz that will determine what your dominant inner child wound is, and you'll be sent a free personalized report about that wound and some practical steps to take so you can begin to heal those wounds. The link is in the pinned comments below. Click that to complete the quiz now. Number 4 on my list is you don't take time out for yourself. Whether this is taking time out for self-care in the evening, to reflect, to go inward, to take care of your body. Maybe self-care to you is putting a face mask on, actually like caring for your looks and your body. I believe self-care goes deeper than that, because there's external self-care and internal self-care, and we have to get the balance of both. But often society focuses on the external self-care, like looking after the body and thinking that we go shopping to look after ourselves and make ourselves feel good. So when we don't take time out for ourselves, we become overwhelmed and burnt out. And in this moment, it's helpful to ask ourselves again, what does my body need right now? And this is when we begin to take the steps to go and do some self-care activities. But taking time out for yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean self-care isn't a bubble bath or a face pack or something on your body. Taking time out can mean going inward, going on an inward journey, and doing maybe some journaling, going for a walk in nature, taking time out for yourself to recalibrate, reset your nervous system, and also taking time out for yourself, and maybe going out with friends, going out and socializing with like-minded people, not people that are not in alignment with who you are and what your values are. So when we don't take time out for ourselves, we begin to feel that in our bodies, because we feel when we're burnt out, when we feel when we're overwhelmed, we feel when we feel resentful. So it just means we are abandoning our desires, our needs, and abandoning that time for ourselves. Number 6 on the list is that you do not speak your truth. You do not express your authentic voice. Because one, fear of judgment. One is that you want to feel accepted, so then you're not judged, you're not criticized, you don't feel rejected. And so you feel like you are enough, people will accept you. And so it's rooted in survival. And also, if you experience anything in childhood, like I spoke about the inner child wounds, we have to maybe hold ourselves back, hold our authentic truth, our voice back, because we didn't receive the validation and the love in childhood. So it's you've been stuck on autopilot like that. But when we are not speaking our truth, we're abandoning ourselves. We're abandoning that voice, that inner voice that we have to stand up for ourselves, to express your opinion. And the world needs your truth right now. The world needs your authenticity. So when we are holding our voices back, we're doing a disservice to ourselves, we're doing a disservice to the world. So we need to cultivate more self-love, so then we're able to speak our truth and express our authenticity through our voices. Number 7 on the list of signs you may self-abandon is that you lack boundaries. So when we lack boundaries, we're telling people we are a doormat, saying you can walk all over me, you can do what you like. And so we don't stand up for ourselves, we don't speak the truth, we don't have a verbal boundary, we don't stand in our power to say, look, this is my boundary, you are crossing my boundary, or this is the boundary I am setting. And that is an external boundary. But an internal one is an internal boundary with yourself, being disciplined with yourself. And this is the way we can begin to kind of show up for ourselves in ways as well, when we have those boundaries with ourselves as well. Or you just don't even have any boundaries. This is a sign that you are self-abandoning. Number 8 on my list is that you are giving your power away. So this is not just giving your power away to people. This can be giving your power away to like devices, other people's opinions, following what people say and following the rules and not saying anything and letting them have control over you, rather than you standing in your power and then speaking up for yourself and expressing your own truth, your boundaries. You're allowing things to dictate how you should show up in the world. You're giving it your power. This can even be like an electronic device that you put on your wrist, like a Fitbit, for example. And so you're giving it your power to dictate, well, how far should I run today? I've got to run this far, otherwise I haven't completed that same thing as I did yesterday. I've got to be consistent and I've got to do this and that, and oh my God, it's dictating how much sleep I should be getting at night. That is giving your power away to things. So when we stop doing that, we stop letting things tell us what we should be doing, how we should be showing up in the world. We're not letting it have the power or the control over us. We're taking our power back, coming back into our power and speaking our truth, or we're just showing up for ourselves in ways that we don't need to give our power away to things. Number 9 on my list is that you are hiding parts of yourself. You're hiding those parts of yourself that want to be seen, that want to be expressed and have its own needs, because we are all fragmented beings, really. And all those fragments have different desires, wants and needs. And often we don't express those parts of ourselves that really want to be expressed. So often we hide parts of ourselves that are acceptable. Often we shut away in the shadow and we hide and deny parts of ourselves that are very shameful. But there is so much parts of ourselves that we are purposely hiding. We don't want people to see that this is who I am. This is my authenticity. Because we fear judgment so much, because we are so conditioned that we have to be accepted. And because of all the conditioning, whether that's from childhood and your traumas, your religion, your society, tribes, like we can express our authenticity and not hold on to this judgment, this fear of the judgment that, well, showing these parts of myself, oh my God, I could die because my ego is so heavily attached to it and my ego doesn't want to die. Like, we can let go of all that by asking ourselves, what does really want to be expressed right now? What am I hiding within myself that I really want to express in the world, but I'm feeling some fear about it? Because when we look at our fears, it's always rooted in a part of ourselves that wants to be expressed. So we hide parts of ourselves, and there are people out there that actually do change themselves with each person they interact with, and because they really don't know how to be authentic. And it's not just about being authentic all the time. It's just about, like, stop abandoning parts of yourself or denying parts of yourself that want to be seen. So the 10th and final sign that you self-abandon is that you don't trust your instincts. Because when we have given our power away so much to other people and the sense of self is very weak, you turn to authority to guide you, to know what you're doing. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. you don't trust your instincts, you're not in tune with your body and your intuition, you're not embodied in a powerful way because you've given your power away, you're pleasing everybody all the time, you don't know how to show up in a way that is truth for you. So this means you don't know how to feel your intuition, your gut instinct in your body. Your internal navigation system may be switched off because you have given your power away to everybody else so much to tell you how to behave, how to show up in the world. So it's about reevaluating what is true for you, what your values are, and stop letting anybody tell you how to live your life. So then when we're able to do that, we're able to come back into alignment with who we are, and you turning on that internal compass again and trusting our instincts and our intuition. There you have it, 10 signs that you self-abandon. Just another little reminder that the doors are open to my 5-week group program, Integrated Self Wounds to Wisdom, where you receive 5 weeks of course material and 5 live calls where you'll shift from emotional suffering to emotional empowerment. Click the link in the description box as well if you would like to sign up today. With that being said, I will see you in this video. Much love.